Well, first of all, thank you for everybody for coming out tonight. This is a great turnout. These types of things are awesome to see. So, just wanted to share with you a little bit about my background and about what I've seen the last couple of years as far as what I've been doing on council and about kind of what I see for the city going forward. Just to give you a little bit of background, I moved here 13 years ago with my beautiful wife and 4 small kids, and we've managed to raise our kids. 2 of them have left home, a home that I own, by the way, and 2 of them are still in high school at Leander High School. I guess it was about 5 years ago that when I first became interested in serving, and it was because as I looked at the city, I started to really see that we weren't getting some of the businesses that I would have thought we would have gotten. I have a degree in urban and regional planning, which I did not use. I went into sales, but it's always been something that's interested me. And I study, kind of how cities grown. I've managed to travel to every city in the country. So, I'm really a student of how cities are growing. So I didn't feel like Leander was really kind of progressing the way that I would imagine that it should. So I volunteered for our Economic Development Committee, thinking this is an area that interests me. I served on that as well as the Charter Review Commission. And from there, I decided, if I'm really going to make a difference, I need to run for city council. So 3 years ago, I ran, I was elected, and I've been on the council for 3 years. And I've decided now that if I really want to make a difference, this is something that I need to do. I think we are at a crossroads as far as Leander's evolution. And every city goes through this. I mean, this really isn't about Troy Hill's vision for the city or so-and-so's vision for the city. It's really about what is our vision for the city. What do we want it to be? Look at the reasons that we moved here. We moved here because I wanted to move from Dallas. I wanted to get back to the hill country. So I wanted to be someplace that had beautiful views, elbow room, good schools. A lot of the same reason people move from Austin to Leander. I think maybe we're losing a little bit of that. We've added 20,000 people in the last 4 years, and it's hard to have that influx of people and still keep the character of the city that you once were, the small town that you once were. So I think we as a city have got to have that conversation. What kind of city do we want to be when we, quote unquote, grow up? We have issues that we need to deal with, quite frankly. It doesn't mean that we're not a great town. I mean, we wouldn't be here if we didn't care about it, right? We all certainly do. The things that I get concerned about, I do get concerned about the quality of life. I get concerned about whether we can afford to live here after we retire. I live in an area that has a lot of people going in and out. I see for sale signs, and I know the property taxes are just killing everyone. So these are quality of life issues. These are pocketbook issues that I care about. Those things we have to deal with, and we have to be honest about it, and we have to really decide what kind of city that we're looking for. I talk a lot about economic growth. I know that's some of the questions that we have on here. To me, it is without a doubt the most important issue that we face. You can look at the issues like the water, you can look at issues like density or things like that about schools, and it really comes back to we are not bringing in enough growth to pay the bills, to help pay the bills. So that burden is primarily being felt by property owners. I think we need to change that, and I think now is the time to do it. And the way that we do it is we become a business-friendly city. I know that sounds cliche. It's absolutely 100% true. We need to make it where businesses can come into the city, can afford to build here, and can make money once they're here. If it's too expensive for them to build here, they're not going to come. And I think that's what we've seen. I don't want us to become a bedroom community for the rest of our existence. And if we keep going down the path that we have been, I think that's an area that we're probably going to see happen. We'll still grow, but we're going to see the types of businesses that don't necessarily give us that tax base, that sales tax base that we need. So we're going to see the things like the mattress stores and the dentist office, and there's nothing wrong with those, but they don't give you the taxable value that you need to offset higher property taxes. So as mayor, quite frankly, number one on my list of things to do, day one, is to do things like drop the smart code in the TOD. The TOD is the area around the rail station. 12 years ago, when we made the TOD, we made it 2,300 acres, way too big. The average TOD anywhere in the country, 150 to 200 acres. So it was way too big. We put a smart growth around it that's 83 pages worth of regulations, and that's why 12 years later, we don't have a single company producing sales tax in the TOD. We need to change that. We need to drop the TOD, or drop the smart code in the TOD. Cap Metro, it's a blessing and it's a curse all at the same time. I have no problem with mass transit. It has its place, but it really doesn't have its place for a city that's 5,000 to 8,000 people to be getting into. And the reason is because a city gives up its future in a certain way when you decide to spend the money that we spend on Cap Metro. Out of 8.25, a city gets to keep 2 cents. One goes to general revenues, one goes to a variety of things that you can do like economic development, or you can use it for mass transit. So ours goes to mass transit. So that 1 cent adds up to about $3.6 million a year that we pay for Cap Metro. Again, we're in it, so how do we make it more beneficial? You know, I've met with Cap Metro for the last 3 years. I've told them, if we're paying you the full amount that you're asking for, you need to give us weekend service. If our residents who are paying for it want to ride it on weekends, you need to be open weekends. You need to be running the trains on weekends. If I'm elected, we will get weekend service, and we're going to get it very, very quickly. The way to work with these guys is you use leverage. Obviously, they want to keep us in. We're the last stop on the red line. There's no way they're going to want us to talk about getting out. We wouldn't get out, but we can demand that they give us the kind of service that we need. Going back to that 1 cent, it makes it very, very difficult to give economic incentives if you don't have that 1 cent. The way that I would proceed to do this, you know, we would keep giving tax abatements to businesses to come here. You know, I've suggested things like working with, you know, renters or strip centers or, you know, people that rent out spaces to businesses. Why don't we give them some kind of tax incentives so they wouldn't raise the rent on the businesses for the first 3 years? Because we see a lot of business on the rocks is one that's right by Brooklyn Heights, that the rents were raised once taxes went up. You know, so we lost a homegrown business because taxes went up. So why not incentivize the landlords not to raise the rent on the renters for the first 3 years? These are the kind of things that you have to be creative about when you don't have that sales tax to offer companies. I can definitely come up with other ways that we can incentivize people to come and hopefully work with them as far as what we do once they're here. You know, one of the other questions on here that is key to me is density. And, you know, it's a hot topic. And there are people within planning that believe that we should be adding density all throughout the city. So in other words, if we're, you know, going to be 250,000 people, then we want to spread that density out. The problem with that is that it costs a lot of money. And it literally costs $500 per unit on average for a multifamily development. Compare that to single-family development, it's a net $400 gain. So strictly in dollars and cents, it costs us more money to service multifamily throughout the city than single-family homes. I'm not saying there's not a place for that. To me, we want to concentrate that at the core center of the city, which would be the rail station. We want to have the higher density there. What I'd like to do is change our focus in the outer fringes of the city and not emphasize 50-foot lots, 30-foot lots, 40-foot lots. We just approved a development Thursday night that's going to add 235 units to right close to Tom Glen. The problem with that is Jim Plame is the elementary school. It's got over 1,000 students. It's already over capacity. And we built Camacho to try to take the load off of Jim Plame, but it's already up to 1,000 again. And the reason is because we're making this a small lot, highly dense city. Again, 20,000 people in 4 years. The question becomes, how do we pay for it? We're the fastest growing city in the country. That's awesome. Let's take the trophy, but, maybe what we should do is emphasize a more balanced approach, where we emphasize, for right now, less dense developments and commercial. So focus on those two things. And then when we get the commercial where we need to be, maybe we can relax some of that. But just adding people without a way to pay for them doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So as mayor, I'm telling you, my main focus is going to be building our commercial base, attracting the kind of businesses that we want. We pay 30% of Cedar Park's sales tax. That's unacceptable, in my opinion. We want places in our own city to spend our hard-earned dollars, and I intend to make sure that we have those here. I think we can get a town center if we drop the smart code around the TOD, a true destination where people can come from out of town into Leander instead of one way, into Austin from Leander. I definitely think that if we emphasize lower density, we're not going to have to be building schools every year. We built 10 schools in the last 4 years. It's crazy. We can't continue. So I want to be smart about it. I want a well-planned city. I want a place that literally we're going to be proud of once it's built out, because we don't get a second chance to do it. Now's the time to do it. Now's the time to change the direction. I hope that you'll vote for me on May 5th and just say hell yes.